What do you feel like are going to be the big sea changes in the next few years in terms of video, in terms of marketing?
I think we're just going to see some people kind of wild out a little bit with tools, and it's going to need to settle like the shiny toy. And part of that cycle is like the shininess will wear off, and people are like, oh, yeah, we have to tell really good stories. And there is no AI thing that's going to give us empathy into a human insight to really understand someone. And the tools will always be there to be amplifying. But I think people just have to remember like, you can't shortcut quality.
Welcome to Notes from Video Village, where marketers share their thoughts and insights on everything video, from content strategy to budgets to their experiences producing broadcast commercials, internal videos, social media reels, and everything in between. I'm your host, Dan Lichtenberg, and today I'm excited to speak with Jeremy Brady, a creative director that's worked with iconic brands like Adult Swim, GitHub, HubSpot, Yelp, and more. I first worked with Jeremy when he was the creative director at GitHub and we were doing a huge campaign for them. He's amazing at galvanizing a team and making sure that everyone's voice of the team is heard. All right, let's get into it. Let's just start off. Tell me your name, what your background is, and what type of work you typically do.
My name is Jeremy Brady, or JB for some. And I've been doing this thing they call advertising, marketing, design for the last 25 years. Feels a little odd to say a quarter century. And I think we're all just kind of in this business to just genuinely get people to feel something and do something, but just do something real in a way that we can tap into who we are as humans
How did you get into advertising marketing?
by sheer luck. By sheer luck, determination, and a lot of pestering. I took a very non traditional career path. I started out as a drum and bass DJ in South Beach, Miami, which is where all careers are born. That's really where you start. And this little thing called the internet was around and popped open Mozilla. And at the time, we were doing a lot of 3D work for, I think the kids call them raves. And we were like, wait, we can do this. And then every person on the planet who has this thing that sounds like it's making them an espresso slash a modem can see it in the back of our heads just blew right off. So that just kind of started the whole thing. And think along with me and some very, very smart people, and I did not include myself in that group, decided let's get some one way tickets to San Francisco. I hear that's where it's going. So in 97, 98, left the, dare I say, rave world behind.
Nice. And you worked with some of like the early internet people, right?
Yeah. I mean, in the way of both in terms of starting my career and working on brands like Shutterfly, and then working with some really old brands like Williams Sonoma about bringing them into the future that was happening. And at the same time, really kind of splitting my time hanging out with a lot of people that were in kind of hacking and freaking communities with a PH and learning enough about coding to be dangerous, but never able to really to write code, but enough to go like, oh, okay, like we could tinker with this.
Do you remember the first video that you worked on during those years? And was it a part of a campaign? What was it? And what was that experience like?
I mean, I think there was always those campaigns and pieces of work that we were doing. I think fast forward, leaving San Francisco, moving to Atlanta, and working at Cartoon. I think the first moment, like we're true, like we're getting our hands on video and making stuff. We were, I don't know who agreed to do this, and I don't begrudge them. They were like, sure, you can do as many on-air promos on Adult Swim as you like. And we're like, great. You know what? There's this brilliant comedian that we work for slash work with named Brad Neely, and he's doing the show called Professor Brothers. So we just took clips and all sorts of stuff that he was making and others. And I mean, I think the one that we did that particularly was like, okay, I really like this, which was a spoof of Kiefer Sutherland from 24 was running an ad agency and came in with like that level of intensity, something, something, doing a hand plant on the edge of something, something Grand Canyon. It's that simple, apparently. So, yeah, I think that moment I was like, oh, wow, like we can do this and also can be fun and it could be scrappy. And it was sort of the, I don't want to overstate it, but sort of the dawn of what like social media, if that's, if we could call it that, in around '07. And so we went from like really big shoots to just being like, no, anyone can do it. And also anyone was like, sure, you can do these on air promos.
What do you think was like the net result of that democratization?
I think there's always folks that on the potential negative side, there's people that punch down in that moment and just go and try to wall it off and go, well, you don't have big crews. You don't have, I was like, yeah, we're not doing Lexus commercials for $4 million out in the Tucson desert anymore. And I don't know if that's a bad thing, you know? And we really were just kind of taking, I think, that spirit of the early internet days of like, this is open to anyone. If you've got an idea, like good ideas are going to bubble to the top. I think it was that for me. It was like, oh, wow, I love that because we went from your competitor just being whatever, blah, blah, blah brand to like your competitors and or your friends being everyone on the internet. And I was like, great, because it's kind of what we were about.
Yeah, and I'm sure like the type of content that got created was so different as a result.
It was different. I mean, some of it was like wonderful because we were just making really bad stuff, like really, really bad stuff, and it being okay to make bad stuff. And I can't stress like how important that is to just not be good.
Yeah. Well, experiment, right? Like you
Yeah.
could experiment and learn from that as opposed to like having to vet every little idea before it goes into production, right?
And then being okay to kind of fail. And I think particular because if there was risk of talking too much about Adult Swim, that always seemed like, okay, we're going to be doing this, what, 2 a.m. in the morning. How many people are actually watching? Fair amount now, for sure. But like, that was just a good kind of lab. And at the risk of giving a dollar answer for a 25-cent question, I think that's something we've kind of lost a little bit and to some degree and actually gained. It depends on which arena you're playing in.
You mean like a big brand versus all these little brands that exist out there? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Yeah. And the stakes being like, oh, we have to hit these numbers, or individually, I have to have this amount of likes to validate it. And whatever it is, I think it's okay to be a little punk rock with it and go just like make to make. Not to get too much into a philosophical thing, but I think we're chasing the dopamine a little too much versus just like, no, okay, let's just try a lot of little things and then great things come from that.
The focus on all the analytics and the data and everything has people manufacturing their content to the millisecond, right? Like, oh, what's the engagement rate in these first 2 seconds? But well, it's interesting because, like, in some ways, you can okay, finally, we have real data that we can see now if it's really successful or not. But on the other hand, what type of success are you measuring? Are you just measuring this kind of short term success? Because you can't really say whether this piece of content is affecting your long term brand in a good way.
Yeah, and the whole thing around no matter how much data plays a role, and no matter how much it does, it definitely needs to be in the room. But if it's leading the conversation, that is an abandoned ship moment. That is like, what are we doing here? I mean, we've talked about this. You know this better than most. I mean, people remember not so much what you said, but how you made them feel. This Apollo Dionysus sort of like logic, emotion kind of thing. And I'm just continually surprised that we forget that.
100%. I always tell people if you're trying to turn your PowerPoint slide into a video, take a step back. That's the first thing that, that you're doing wrong.
I think that actually caused physical pain in my liver. The PowerPoint list has its point
Yeah.
some places, but yeah, not as a video. Not as
Yeah.
a video.
Do you have any pet peeves around ways you see people using video that really annoy you or you think it's just the wrong way to do it?
Coming back to my earth point of go wild with it. I don't know if it's so much a framing of being annoyed, but just like a little sad. But I think what a lot of us are seeing is it looks the same. The beats are the same. I'm seeing the same motion transitions or maybe the same stories being told. Great. Online communities, your voice is heard. Cool. I don't know if that's a narrative. I don't know if that's a story that we necessarily have to keep telling. So some of these sort of more well-tread narratives that I feel are we're on the same Instagram feeds. We're seeing the same stuff. And I'm more interested in either people who are going to break out of that, or if you're going to tell a story, tell a really good story. And there are people who've done a really great job for that for a really long time. And some of us are trying to reinvent that. And it's like, no, Ogilvy kind of got it right the first go around. Like there's just some fundamentals. So I guess if I were to summarize that, don't try to keep telling the same stories because we've already heard it. And if you are, at least have the fundamentals of the craft. like the beats of a story, the beginning, a middle, and end, characters you can believe in, et cetera, et cetera.
Can you think of like a time in your career when you've made a video and you felt like it was ineffective? You did it the wrong way, and what have you learned from that?
Okay, I could spend an entire Spire week. Maybe we all kind of fall in the same trap where I was falling in love with tools early on, like 3D Studio, earliest alias Wavefront, just because it was like magic. It was lightning in a bottle. You went from black and white to Technicolor, and I did a lot of unnecessarily abusive things in Bryce 3D to people's eyeballs that I think I should write apology letters for. So falling in love with tools and just not actually thinking more about like, okay, let's come back to like, is it a good story? So I think that's a biggie. And then other times just missing the human truth, like just missing the mark, putting too much of myself in a story or a video that you might be doing and really having to learn this lesson over and over. I mean, there's so many examples of this. It's hard to kind of narrow it down of like, it's not about you. It's about this person. So do as much as you possibly can to just be an authentic storyteller by walking a mile in this person's shoes, or at least just have a general understanding before even thinking about doing a rough draft script.
Nice. Yeah. Slight different question. When your team is in the past, when you've been working on big campaigns, how did you
Mhm.
decide where a video should sit in the campaign, whether you should even make a video? Like,
Mm.
how did your team talk about that type of thing?
There's definitely a lot of inside baseball in this, but I think the short headline is just where are people playing it and coming back to just understanding what people are thinking and feeling and doing. And then also go not only like where's your customers, people, where are they hanging out at? How are they consuming content? But you don't want to be that Steve Buscemi meme with a skateboard over the shoulders and showing up and just being tone deaf too. So making sure that understanding the media and how much media strategy is so super 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 important. Like get that early on. You can have the greatest idea in the world and you can tell it in all the wrong places. So you and your media friends should be hanging out like besties. So the combination of creative strategy and media, just like hanging out together and not just like sharing, but like brainstorming in that way. And that so much relies on creative, not just making space in the room. It's really not our job necessarily to make space, but just to remember that's important.
Do you think over your career, or even, past 10 years or whatever, where video typically fits in a campaign has changed? Do you see that video is more central? Do you see it kind of as the same, just as it in down different platforms?
Video is just how people are communicating. I mean, social media isn't just a where I share what I did this weekend, as we know. I mean, this is going to be like water is wet, sky is blue, but it's the entertainment, it's the commerce, it's the whole world lives in that. And the medium in which that's delivered, obviously, is in video. And to the degree and to the extent that you're delivering those narratives, I think is important. And video, probably, and I think also along with 3D, not that I'm pitching for a metaverse to happen. I'm not super pro metaverse. That's just the world we live in now and the world that will completely occupy all of our spaces soon.
Nice. Yeah. How have you typically in the campaigns that you've been part of, how have you measured the success of your videos? Whether it is like a KPI or a qualitative measurement or anything that you think is really valuable?
I know this is not what you should say, but I mean, there is a part of this is like, do my friends think it's cool?
That's a good litmus test.
Because your friends will tell you some straight up stuff. You're going to get the most honest feedback from your friends. So, as much as I want to impress them, tell me what sucks. Did they feel the things that I hoped them to feel? Did the beats of the story hit at the right moment? Long story long, it's super hard to measure. And I think we can only make those, we can only draw loose connections from large brand awareness lifts to many people still want to engage with us and even want to purchase with us further down the line.
Has there been any video campaign or anything that you've seen recently that you think is really cool and effective or that you would be proud of?
I'm kind of like a dog chasing cars a little bit. So sometimes I only remember the things that are really in front of me. I was going back and looking at like old like Land Rover ads and print ads and stuff like that. And just like, oh, that's such genius. But I mean, I thought the Haynes like original commercial that just came out with. It's just like super simple. It's a cowboy western. Company's been around for a long time. It's pretty silly, doesn't take itself too seriously. It's like a minute long, titled as a Haynes original, which I really love because it reminds me of those BMW original films with Clive Owens that they were doing. It's like, do more of that. People still talk about those things.
Yeah, I remember I had the DVD and I would watch like the films on the BMW film series. I feel like there was like a One Car Y film on it. There was
Mm.
like crazy stuff on there. And yeah, Clive Owen. And yeah, just to think that like I was basically like voluntarily popping in an advertisement into a DVD player to watch it. It's like,
The kind of quasi sort of philosophy, but I mean, we are in the business of interrupting people. No one asked us to be there. So we damn well be entertaining if we are. So yeah, that kind of stuff for me, I love that. And then I just like little things too. I liked just like simple ads, even like MailChimp's like people cluster thing that they were doing, it's just like, oh, that's interesting. So it's not super complicated. Give me something that's a minute long. It's going to hold my attention.
so thinking about like the emerging trends and the tech, right? That's like
Mm,
in the future right now, in terms of video, in terms of marketing. What do you see that's coming along or has already come? What do you feel like are going to be the big sea changes in the next few years?
I think we're just going to see some people kind of wild out a little bit with tools and it's going to need to settle. Like we're going to, the shiny toy. And part of that cycle is like the shininess will wear off and people are like, oh yeah, we have to tell really good stories. And there is no AI thing that's going to give us empathy into a human insight to really understand someone. And the tools will always be there to be amplifying. But I think people just have to remember, like, there's no, you can't shortcut quality. I know I'm really getting close to like sitting on my porch and being an old man here, but you know, I'm not mad at it. I think it's great. I love it. Like, get into it. Go take it as far as you can, but don't forget you still gotta tell a beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah, like just because it's a cool AI driven thing, no one's going to be emotionally engaged with it unless it tells a good story.
I don't know if you feel this way. I'm starting to feel like we kinda got the Avengers out of our system.
Oh, yeah. Thank God.
Bob Iger's like, "Yeah, we need to stop just, like, making tons of stuff and turn these things back into the events that they were," like, versus just like, "I don't know if I need to know about the stormtrooper group."
Right? There's so many spin-offs. I think Mandalorian was like a good thing because it showed that good old-fashioned storytelling can just be awesome, you know? It's actually like the most conservative, old-fashioned, typical kind of storytelling you can get, just done with cool Star Wars stuff, right?
Totally. They're like, "What is this?" "It's a spaghetti western."
Yeah, yeah. There it is.
Like, cool. Like, so yeah, let's just try not to outsmart ourselves. And, um, but kind of like in the beginning, where I started out, it would be crazy hypocritical for me to be like, no, I don't, it's not real. And, you know, who owns this and who doesn't? I was like, those are really healthy debates. Those are for much smarter people than me to sort out. Um, in the meantime, let's see where this goes.
Yeah, it's in the meantime, these are really accessible tools. It's like so many different people can use them to create stuff that could suck and could be really cool. It's like either way, there's still like somebody at the end of it making things, the tool.
Yeah. Do you are you, um how active, I guess, are you incorporating, like, AI stuff?
We've done like one or two projects where we've used Midjourney
Mhm.
comprehensively in it just to like create images from scratch. I've used Midjourney a few times to like just do storyboards. It's a super cool tool for ideation because you don't have to worry about like making a mood board or a storyboard. You can just type in a prompt and, you know.
Yeah. Just don't include fingers.
Oh
Just
yeah, the six finger human. My God. Yeah. Yeah. We haven't like found a lot of ways to use it really like in an end product yet, but I think it'll
Mhm.
happen soon. Did you see the Sora thing that came out?
I did. Yeah, I'm like, "Cool." Like, keep going, just keep going. It's my general. It's like, great, thank
Right.
you, keep going. You
Yeah,
know,
it was cool. Yeah, and it'll get there eventually, and it's gonna be a cool tool, I think.
I do think like copyright, who owns what, you know, I think that's all very, very important. But I just want to be super clear. Like, it's not for me to decide. I always be like, should I be entering this dialogue? Like, no, let me check. Not a lawyer, not a lawyer. So I think I'll be quiet and just and tinker.
Yeah, experiment and then see if you can make something cool.
I know it seems silly, but it's actually kind of not. It's like just making cool stuff. Your friends, especially friends that like have no like I don't know if you have this, like friends that are just not even in your bit like the world that you're occupying. You're like, "What do you do?" You're like, "I'm a park ranger." I was like, "What do you think about this video?"
Yeah. Yeah, no, that is such a good it is a good litmus test. I mean, sadly, I can't remember, I remember there's sort of a time in my career where I just stopped sharing stuff with my wife. I used to be, "What do you think of it?" And I don't really do that anymore. Maybe I'm, like, not making the cool stuff anymore.
No, I think open it up. I've been talking to a lot of people lately, and I don't know if this is a halo effect, but I've kinda hit a point where that joy of making is harder to kinda tap into in the sense that that space to play and be silly and to ask questions, to feel like you have the time and the space.
Yeah, when you have to churn out that much content, maybe you just don't.
I'm curious for your world, like knowing that sometimes the deadlines or the time to turn things around. How are you creating the space for the work to breathe?
I mean, I remember earlier in my career, I would do a lot more like little passion projects or just like to know people that like were making something that there was no client for, or even like a client that wasn't really paying, right? Just because they wanted to make something cool. And that was like such a good way to do what you're talking about. But yeah, it's like, at least in the Bay, the whole money thing is just amped up the stakes of everything, right? And
Mm.
I don't you moved to New Orleans, right? I don't know what it's like there, but
For me in New Orleans, I was always here because I just wanted to kind of get out of and I love living in San Francisco. It's where my son was born. It's a fantastic place. I just think for me personally, I'm not saying this for everybody, but for me personally, there was no separation of work and life. So many of who I knew, people I knew were just doing what I was doing. And that was weird because the conversations just felt like work never stopped. So coming to New Orleans, currency is a little different. Everyone just wants to have fun. But I think there are less opportunities. It's kind of a mixed bag, both in terms of like the work that I'm doing currently, where you may not see those bigger budgets, and then whatever budgets are taken up right now are taken up by some more of the streaming service shows.
what I've noticed though is a lot of people like you, a lot of like the creatives have less the Bay. Like 10 years ago when I lived here, I was just like meeting creative people every day
Mm.
and maybe that was like feeding the juices of creativity. And so maybe the fact that they've all spread out is part of why I like haven't been involved in as many cool projects. I don't know.
Well, there's something just a lot to be said for community, just as like net large, like how important community is. And it sounds like you're saying, like, hey, I remember what it was like, and then kind of feeling that absence.
Yeah, I mean, I guess we were kind of talking about how you were saying people have less and less feel like they're excited about making stuff or get that excitement from like having made something. And I think, yeah, maybe it's time. Maybe a part of it is community. I mean, like COVID obviously had this massive effect on
I'm
all.
sorry, what? Was I don't know. It didn't happen.
Oh yeah, it didn't happen down there. I forgot. but but yeah, I mean so maybe it's like the reverberations and aftermath of that and like everyone like trying to reconnect or I don't yeah, I don't know. But I agree with you that it's been harder to find that satisfaction with like making stuff.
I think we've gone past the reasonable excuse of like we're just calibrating back to pre-pandemic staff levels to like,
Yeah.
"Mm, eh, are we? Are we really?"
Right.
And then the remote thing for sure. I've been remote since like 2011, so hypocrisy here for sure. But nothing beats being in a room and the energy and like making stuff. Somebody asked me recently, like, well, how do you know it was like a good idea or it's good? I'm like, if we're in the room and it makes us laugh, it's probably a good indicator there's something there. And like having a comedic conversation just feels natural. I mean, this is good. We get to hang out and see each other. It's been a minute, but like it's not the same.
It's also like you're in the room and you're brainstorming whatever, and like there's a good idea that pops up, and all of a sudden, like the energy in the room kind of changes. There's like so many different ways you can feel a good idea, not just laughter. It's so many different things.
So I think those are the areas, whether we're making videos, whether we're making zines, whether we're just making skateboard graphics, whatever we're making, there is a joy in that creation. And I think if we just remember, like, yeah, the numbers, those things are important, but it's not a widget factory, you know? And there's a lot of like, back in my day, you could slip into, but our job is we got to get people to feel something and do something.
Yeah, trying to like manufacture emotion that doesn't really work.
Yeah. Like comedy is like, not just manufacture, but also the pressure just be like, okay, be funny now. Or like make a great video. We're just trying to figure that out and trying to have a good time. Like this used to be really fun, and I think it can be again. It can be again.
Soon we'll all be in the metaverse together, laughing and brainstorming and coming up with great ideas. Not just pray for
So
the
on that,
next generation.
I'm more, Star Trek Next Generation of like, give me our like food replicators and stuff like that. I'm down with that. I'm like, that's my world that is kind of in. So, I feel like we kicked all the rocks.
I think we got some good stuff. Yeah, thanks, Jeremy.
All right, thanks, Dan. It's good to see you, man.
Notes from Video Village is a project of Slow Clap. This episode was produced by Darissa Hicks with the help from myself, Jake Richard, Katie Bales, Bejo Lee Wang, Alexander Flores, and Dan Lichtenberg. Join us next time for an interview with SaaS marketing exec Becky Hobbs, and go to our website, slowclap.com, to listen to past episodes or read any episode as a transcript. And don't forget to follow Notes from Video Village on Spotify.